Hey everybody, welcome to Badge Banter, where we feature some awesome stories about the value of the ID badge and its ability to enable organizations to better recognize and connect people. I'm Lindsay Martin-Nez, your host, and I am super excited to introduce you to today's guest. Welcome to Charlia Pence from Diamond Business Services. Thanks so much for being here, Charla.
Lindsay, thank you so much for having me. I love that you do these and I learn something from them every time. So now I feel the pressure of trying to share something with somebody that might make them learn something. But if nothing else, I know we're going to have a good time.
Well, we definitely do that. And Charla, you are my first repeat guest. So you're the first guest I've had that is on season 2 that was also on season 1. So we're very lucky to have you back for a second round.
Well, thank you. I feel like one of the, if you watch the SNL 50 show this weekend, celebrating all the people that were multiple hosts, for SNL, they get a blazer and all this stuff. So I'm waiting for my Badge Pass blazer to show up.
No pressure.
Yes, there, yeah.
Well, if anybody that missed your first episode, why don't you go ahead and just give us a little bit of an overview about what it is that y'all do?
Absolutely. Our company's Diamond Business Services, and we're based in Texas. And we're kind of in a rural area of Texas, but that's kind of been to our advantage because we're pretty agile in what we can do and the different products and vendors that we support. But our bread and butter is in identification, identifying individuals, identifying whose bank account goes with what debit card, identifying who's coming into a school or what they're bringing with them into a school. And we've been so fortunate that we're celebrating our 43rd year. We're a family business, and to go through all the different changes in economy and climates and in technology and still be here after 43 years is pretty exciting. So we love what we do. We've got fantastic customers and we've got obviously fantastic vendors. So we're excited, but we do photo identification. We do weapons detection. We do ATM and debit card issuance systems. So we kind of have a whole lot of different areas, but yet they all come back in because they're still identifying a person, a product, or a program.
Oh, I love that. I've loved watching your company evolve over the years. It's been super fun. But I think you're right. At the end of the day, like all the solutions that you offer your customers, they all kind of come back to that centralized ID and giving the people the ability to better identify people.
You think about it, everything we've done and we work with emergency response people, and we'll have a disaster and they need to identify who can go back in to see their property after a problem. When COVID was here, you had to identify whether or not you had had a shot or not. Whenever you go to the TSA or any place like that, you've still got to go through and identify who you are. So the value that your name has and the value that your identity has is not going to get any less. It's going to keep getting bigger and bigger, more and more important.
Well, I think you just transitioned so well into our first talking point for today. So, obviously you and I are both very passionate about identification. And very recently, Badge Pass has really started promoting this initiative. We're calling it Your Name Has Value. And so we've done a lot of research, and some of it's come from contributors like you and other partners of ours in the industry. And some of it's just come from straight up research and reading studies and different things that have been done about the importance of using people's names in daily interactions. And I think what's been really exciting for me is to see what an impact it makes just calling people by their name and how that impacts employee engagement at the office and employee retention, which Lord knows everybody's trying to keep employees. It's hard enough to hire and we don't want them to leave.
Exactly.
And student sense of safety and security in school, patient satisfaction, like you name it. So can you share a little bit about why this particular message resonates so much with you?
Absolutely. I'll give you a couple of reasons. And one of them has to do with the graphic that you guys used. And it says your name has value, and value is in different colors for every letter. And I grew up going to church, going to vacation Bible school, and there was a little song that said, Jesus loves the little children, red and yellow, black and white. They are precious in his sight. And that's what that made me think of, is we are so precious in our side, in our family side, in our God side, in anybody's side, that sometimes we forget that because we have so many pulls, either from technology or school or stress or different things, that we forget how important we are. And there's so many people. I think K through 12 was probably my passion spot, even though we work in a lot of different markets. There's so many kids that you don't know what the story is behind the scene. You know who they are when they walk in the door. They're either the good kid, the bad kid, the kid that goes under the radar, whatever. But we forget the value that they need to feel in their own lives. And I think one of the first things they can do is when you call somebody by name, when Lindsay walks to the door and you go, "Hey, Lindsay, how are you doing? Man, I'm glad you're here today. High five. Have a great day." You can't help but kind of sit up straighter and smile more.
Mm-hmm.
So just that identifying who they are and acknowledging that they are there in their presence, you don't know what you've done for that kid. And I think in this time when we've got so many pushes on and pulls on us that create that mental anxiety that a lot of kids are feeling, I think anything we can do to make them feel affiliated and make them feel recognized or identified is the most valuable part of the day. Because if they feel good about themselves, they're going to feel better about the way they learn. They're going to feel better about making friends. They're going to feel better every step of the way. That's the same thing for walking in a corporate Fortune 5000 company. It's do I matter? Am I just a number? What's my potential down the road? Does anybody care? And I think we all need that affirmation every day.
Yeah.
Then you think about friendships and you think about relationships that we form. If I walk into a room full of black suits and white shirts, I have no idea who you are. But if I have an ID, I can walk up and say, "Hey, Mark, I'm Charlotte. It's nice to meet you. I just read your name." You just opened up connection. And I think that's what we all crave and need when it comes to security too.
I think more than ever right now, people are craving that personal connection. You're so right. And it's interesting to me because I feel like this is the first time. I mean, I grew up in the identification industry. You did too. And so I think this is the first time that we've really like harnessed something that is about more than security. And so for so long, we've kind of talked about the badge being the foundation of security, and like you use it as a utility to accomplish, a means to an end or something like that. But for me, all of this messaging and focusing on it relates more to culture and community than security. And I'm really excited about a different approach to it because I think it's more impactful and more meaningful to people. And not that the security element didn't stay. Like, we didn't lose that in talking about this other aspect of the badge. If anything, we've only brought additional value to it. And I think that leveraging that and talking about that with our customers will get them excited. Like, think about how excited our schools and our companies that we work with will be about this.
I think from a sales perspective, I think we've always gone to identity almost with a fear-based energy. If you don't have your ID, you don't know who's in your building. If you don't have your ID, you're not going to get to clock into your time card and get paid. If you don't have your ID, you're not going to get this. And all that is still 100% true. But again, back to that connection, back to that value. Hey, you're part of us and we want you to represent us, and your badge is going to make you the one identifier that we all have. I can go find t-shirts that have a logo on them, but that doesn't mean I'm part of them. If I have a credential that's been issued to me by my authority figures, whatever they are, then I'm now kind of in the club. I'm in the gang. That's a good feeling. We all want that. But I think it changes how we go to market. And I think it makes us more human in our application.
Yeah.
And I think whether it's K through 12 or, government facilities, it's that same thing. I feel like, not to be political, but I think in the last little 6 months, the political energy has kind of had us at ends with each other that don't see eye to eye with us. And I think we have to have that reconnection again. And I think that's perfect timing for this to me. I'm not going to put my political affiliation on my badge, but I'm going to know who you are and I'm going to walk up and have a conversation with you. Yeah. I'm going to be a kid that feels like they have value and I'm excited to come to school.
Absolutely. I love it. It's like leading with inclusivity and connection as opposed to leading with fear or what potentially could go wrong or keeping the bad guys out. And so
exactly
different type of messaging. So I love that. Well, like we said, both of us have been in this industry for basically our whole career. So what are some trends or changes that you feel like are taking place in the security industry right now that you think will really make a big impact on our customers over the next 3 to 5 years?
I think some of it is really good when it comes to virtual IDs or mobile IDs. Super easy to deal with. But I think sometimes that ease of dealing with it takes away from some of the concerns I have from a security standpoint, or a less connection standpoint. Number one, if I don't have a technology behind that virtual ID, if it's just a picture, I can duplicate it. I mean, there's no value in that identity if other than me flashing my phone up and you say, hey, yeah, that's your photo. You've got to have an application behind it. You have to have some sort of a two-factor or scrolling QR codes or a mobile image or something in there that brings value to it. But even though I can get in the door with it, perhaps, I'm not making that connection with anybody. They're not seeing it. The only person that's going to know my name off of my ID is a security guard.
Sure.
Well, there's a whole lot of people beyond that security door. And I'm not going to have that connection. And I'm not going to have that visual identity to say, hey, I'm a junior, or hey, I get to go to this floor, or my clearance level is ABC. We're not going to have that. Now, it may have to do with what door I get in, but the people that see me are not going to be able to recognize that. I'm no different than anyone else. My only difference is an iPhone or a Samsung. I mean, that's about it. So I just think we can't overlook having that physical connection. If ease of access comes along with a phone, there's a lot of merit to that, and I think that's super. But I still believe visual identity is at the foundation of any kind of true security platform. Who are you, and are you supposed to be in here? And then we can turn around and say, hey, who are you? I want to know your name, and I'm excited you're in here. But I think visual IDs are awesome in certain applications, and if they've got technology skill sets to back them up. But we still got to have that physical ID.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think that the mobile physical credential debate is probably one of the biggest trends in the industry right now. And so, you talked about feeling like the physical badge is here to stay. I'm pretty passionate about the two of them coexisting. But are there any improvements or trends or things like that you think that we could do as an industry as it relates to the physical badge to solidify its place in the market and in the industry moving forward?
I think the more we bring to the chip component of a card, the more applications we can tie into that card, whether it's vending, whether you think of the college setting, how many times would you pull a card out to get in the building, to take the test, log onto the computer, to pay for lunch, to pay for parking, anything like that. The more we add on to that element there, the more value it brings. So I think that's the biggest thing. If there's a way to authenticate visitor management, kind of the clear or TSA mentality to use my card to check in, and I'm a visitor, I'm authenticated at this facility and I can go in. We're seeing more and more hospitals do visitor management. Obviously, it's huge in schools. How can I make that maybe more secure and quicker?
Okay. I love that. No, I think those are great points for sure. Along with new trends, we also as an industry have a lot of outdated trends. So what is one security industry practice or outdated technology that drives you absolutely nuts?
Prox cards. I think more than anything, just because they still work, which is great, but they're so easy to duplicate. When I can go pick up my ingredients to make soup and at the same time duplicate, my husband's car key or duplicate his access control card, something's not right. And I think when you see how easy it is to duplicate those cards, it makes you question how good your fencing and your security system really is. Because it's great to say I've got all this technology and the latest and greatest, but if somebody can find my card and duplicate it, or someone can find my card and still access a building, or someone can find my card and I've got credential overflow because there's another card that's been made and it's not been turned off in the system, you totally annihilate your security program. But I think when we up it to, a dual technology card or some sort of a chip card, or we do something to add more integrity to that credential, it makes our security program 10 times stronger.
Yeah.
And I think that that plays into whether it's a school setting or healthcare setting. You've got doctors and nurses that are accessing medical cards or checking in time cards. We've got to do more with it. And prox is just a yes, no card.
Sure. Let me ask you this. I can have opinions either way when it comes to prox,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty vocal on my feelings about it. And I feel like if as an industry we wanted to get rid of prox, we would have gotten rid of prox. Like we've been
Yeah.
killing it. So we're like shooting ourselves in the foot a little bit,
Yeah.
manufacturing it, selling it at low price points, making it competitively priced where it's not advantageous for our customer to switch to smart. I mean, like at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it still works. And it cost me a bunch of money to move to something else. Like, maybe I'm going to stick with it. So, but do you think that there's stuff that we could do other than just educating people, like telling them, hey, here's why you should move to smart? Or do you think that prox is just one of these things that's going to be a less secure technology and we're going to have it forever?
I think you're still going to have it a lot forever. I think one of the, if you've dealt in the financial market, you've gone through EMV and you've still got people that all they're going to do is do a max stripe card. The technology in EMV has transitioned that milestones away, but in the fuel and gas industry, they're just now getting around to it because you got to change out all the pumps. So it goes back to the same thing you're saying. It's cheap, it's easy, it works. That's great. But does the work outweigh the threat? The threat that I'm going to get that badge compromised. I think we've seen prices come down on other technology cards. I think that's a huge helpmate.
Sure.
You've got some new vendors out there that have got some really strong credentials they're bringing to the market. We've got some that are the tried and true Cadillac that have been out there forever and they're outstanding, but sometimes there may be a pricing discrepancy. Yeah. So I think options, it's kind of like generic drugs. It's a good thing if they all do the same thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was thinking about what I would say if someone asked me what my industry trend was that drove me crazy. And it would be blank white, non-printed, personalized cards when people wear them. Like it drives me nuts when I'm at lunch and someone walks in with like a badge reel and a blank white card. And I'm like, oh my God, we could take your card so much further if we just personalized it. And I've heard a lot of people talk about putting a logo on a card being like a security flaw. That now everybody knows what that key opens to your building. But I think that there's two counterpoints to that. I mean, number one, we're not taking into consideration the sense of community and the culture aspect of what we create by giving people a badge that like they're part of this group or team. Like I take ownership in like, hey, I work at Badge Pass. It's branding for your company out in the field on a daily basis. I see those badges. Other people see those badges. So it's like a walking billboard. But also like if you're using the card for a lot of stuff, people will report it when it's missing because they need it to do things. So anyway, that would be mine.
Well, we had a customer, it's funny you say that they do a lot of, I'm not going to name names, but they do a lot of authentication that's very secure. And they didn't want their logo on the card. They wanted first name only and a photo, and that was it. But yet they wanted these awesome, super customized lanyards to wear the card with no identity on it. And I thought, why is the lanyard's okay to have your logo and name on, but the card's not okay and they're attached? That seemed kind of backwards to me, but the customer's always right.
Yeah, I get that for sure. Well, all good points, great talking points. It was fun going over some of these things with you. I know we could talk about it all day, but we don't have time for that. So I appreciate your insight and your ideas. You definitely bring a great perspective to it.
Thank you.
So my last segment for you is my new favorite segment, and this is our new segment called Badge Blitz. And so for 60 seconds, what I'm going to do is hit you with some rapid fire questions. I did not send these to you in advance. You cannot prep for these. There is no right or wrong answer. Just go with your gut. And this will be a good way for our viewers to get to know you a little bit better and some of your opinions and ideas.
Okay, fire away.
So we're going to set this old school timer for 1 minute, and I will hit you with as many as we can fit in.
Okay.
All right. If you didn't work in the identification industry, what job would you have?
Initially, I would have said a special education teacher because I love being able to make that difference. And I think now, if you ask me, I would work with an adoption agency.
Oh, I could see that for you. That's awesome. What is one design element or security feature that you think should be mandatory on every ID badge?
I think some sort of color coding, because I think whether you have a need for it now or not, if you bring color to a badge, it doesn't cost you anymore.
Yeah.
And that's another element you can do that adds value and adds uniqueness to what you're trying to do.
Like it. All right. Favorite ID accessory. Are you a lanyard, reel, or clip girl?
I'm a lanyard gal. I get my badge clip. I don't like how they crimp your clothes. That's just me. I'm a lanyard gal. Plus, I think it's another design and branding element.
All right. I'm going to ask you one more question, even though we ran out of time. Would you rather explain the difference between smart cards and prox cards to a toddler or to your grandparents?
Oh, that's painful. I'm going to say a toddler, because I could say prox card. No.
Smart card, good. Prox
Card. Yes. That's how I'd go about it.
Nice.
I don't have to answer why.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for doing this segment with us. We really appreciated having you. And it was a lot of fun, as always, to catch up with you, Charlotte.
You too, Lindsay. Thank you for this. And thank you for bringing fun technology to the masses here, which we love. And we're looking forward to some exciting things to do with Badge Pass this year.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Well, to all of our listeners, we hope you'll join us next time as we take you beyond the badge.